Hello, everyone. Welcome to Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin. And today we'll be having my first ever live stream, and I'll be discussing my top 10 1920s movies. And even if you haven't seen that many 1920s movies, go ahead and put it in the chat your favorite ones. And the way it's going to work is as I discuss each film, you'll put in the chat your response as well. So I'm really excited for today. Just trying this out on StreamYard. We'll hope it works well. Last time I tried this on OBS, it kind of crashed. So we'll see how it goes. And it looks like I have one person watching today, so I'm really excited. Thank you for watching. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into my top 10 1920s movies. And the reason why I'm starting out with this decade is it's a decade that I myself don't know a whole lot about, and I'm really excited to discuss it with you guys, the 10 I have seen. I've only started watching them maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I haven't grown up with 20s movies, so these are just ones I've seen within the past 5 years. So without further ado, we'll get into my top 10 list. All right, so my number 10 is called Man with a Movie Camera. This is a Russian film. And what I like about this movie is it's very what's called avant-garde, meaning that there's not really a storyline to it. It's very, very surreal. It's a very surreal film. And it shows really good editing techniques and really good examples of camera techniques, special effects. It's a really impressive film. And if you're really into that, I think you would really like that. So that's my number 10. And if you got your number 10, go ahead and put it in the chat. See what everybody's thoughts are. All right. Well, none so far. So we'll go ahead and move on to my number 9. So my number 9 is Steamboat Bill Jr. This is a Buster Keaton film, and it's also the basis for Steamboat Willie, which came out a couple years later. And what I like about this film is there's a lot of visual gags and a lot of comedy to it. But one of my favorite scenes in it is he's putting on different hats, and the guy that he's with, that Buster's with, absolutely hates them. He keeps ripping them off and throwing them, saying, no, you can't wear this one. Puts on a different one. And another one, Buster, he's on between two boats, and he's about to step onto another one. But what he doesn't realize is one of them is already moving forward. And he falls into the water. So super hilarious, and that's my number 9. Oh, we got a response here from my wife, Lexi. Her number 10 is The General with Buster Keaton. And if you stick around, Lexi, you'll see that one is actually further on in this list. But yeah, go ahead and comment your number 9 if you got your number 9, everyone. All right, well, we'll move on to the next one. My number 8 is The Phantom of the Opera from Lon Chaney. And this is a Universal monster film. It's one of the first ones. I believe the second or third one. And this one I watched for the first time this year, actually. This was one of the first movies I reviewed on my podcast. And what I really liked about this one is the special effects and also the makeup work that Lon Chaney did. I was very impressed with that. And I really liked his expressions. It was very reminiscent of German Expressionism, which I'll get into more a little bit later. But really like this movie. I love the music in it, the set work in it. There's a scene of color that I really liked. Really impressive film. All right. Oh, looks like my wife commented again. The Navigator with Buster Keaton. That's also a really good film. That one won't be on this list. It barely missed it, but I really like that one as well. He's really funny in that. He's on like a giant boat with this girl, and they're trying to survive all the crazy wreckage and whatnot. So yeah, that one's a good one too. All right, but that one, The Phantom of the Opera, that's my number 8. And go ahead, everyone, comment in the chat your number 8s as well. Sounds like there's a fire truck outside. Hey, but that's the thing of going live, right? You never know what's going to happen. All right, this is my number 7. This is called Sunrise. And I watched this one for the first time in my film history class. And this one's from F.W. Murnau, who's very famous for other films. I really like this one. It starts off really sad and kind of depressing because the husband, he's trying to kill his wife, right? But he rekindles their relationship, and by the end of the film, it's actually ends on a happy note. And I really like that story. I mean, it's a tale as old as time, you know, trying to rekindle your relationship, trying to love each other. I really liked it. And this one is actually one of the first movies to win an Academy Award. It didn't win Best Picture. That honor goes to Wings, but many film scholars consider this one to be the better of the two. All right. So it looks like Lexi's number 8 is Steamboat Bill as well. That's a great film, like I said earlier. All right, everyone, make sure to comment your number 7. I'll move on to the next one. So this is my number 6. This is The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which came out, I believe, 1920. And there's kind of speculation on what year it really came out, just because it's so old now, many have forgotten about it. But what I like about this film is it's a great example of German Expressionism, and it's also a great example of horror. It's one of the first mainstream horror films, and I really like this one more than others. Conrad Veidt, he's in this movie, and if you don't know, he's the main villain in Casablanca. He's the German commander in that. And they have crazy makeup work. Cesare, that's his character's name, is a really creepy creature. Yeah, exactly, Lexi. Super creepy. I love this movie, though. I love the ending of it, and I won't spoil it because I think people should watch it. It's a great ending to it. And yeah, that's my number 6. All right, my next one, this is my number 5. I just recently reviewed this one. This is Safety Last from Harold Lloyd. And what I love about this one is the crazy stunt work. The scene with Harold climbing up the clock tower and hanging onto it. Crazy stunt work. Now, if you remember from my review, though, you'll learn that he didn't actually climb that tall building. His stunt coordinator did. But the way they did that shot was they lined up a fake building on top of a real one. And yes, retail jobs for the win. Absolutely. But anyways, he's climbing up to that. And if he actually fell off of that and landed on the mattress, he would have bounced off and hit the street below, because that's what happened to the dummy he dropped. So it was still just as dangerous. He was right next to the edge of the building there. So I really like this movie. It's the only Harold Lloyd film I've seen, but I highly recommend it. It's a great story, and yes, retail jobs for the win. I love that. Yes, it's a great story of that. And you bring up a good point with the retail jobs, though. There's some great comedic moments in that. Like, he's doing this weird crab walk when he's late for work, and his boss follows him, and then Harold kind of tricks him into falling into an elevator. So really, really funny stuff there. But yeah, that's my number 5. I love Safety Last. All right, this one's my number 4, another Buster Keaton film called Sherlock Jr., and this is actually one of the shorter films on this list. It's only about 45 minutes or so. And what I like about this one is there's a scene where Buster, he's like walking into the theater and he's next to the screen and the background keeps changing behind him. You know, for a second, there's like a lion behind him and it's about to attack him. And then it's train tracks. And then it's a car that's about him. And it's really impressive technique they did there, because that's really what's happening behind him. So somehow they edited the frames to line up with each other to make it look real. And I really liked that. That was really impressive stuff there. So overall, though, the Sherlock Jr. is a really funny movie, really good movie, and one of Buster Keaton's best. All right, the next one, this is my number 3. So this is Battleship Potemkin. This is from Sergei Eisenstein. And like Man with the Movie Camera, this is a great example of the Russian montage. The difference, though, is this one is an actual narrative, actual storyline about a revolution that happened in 1905 in Russia. I really like this movie. I love the Odessa staircase sequence, where on one side you have the soldiers marching down the stairs, and then people freaking out because they're being shot at. And you obviously don't see the soldiers' faces. They all kind of blend in. I was really impressed with that. And this movie's almost 100 years old as well. I think it came out in 25 or something like that. But anyways, I really like this movie. I believe it was Chaplin's favorite movie even. And it really shows. It's It's got a great narrative, great storyline, great editing. It's a great movie. Highly recommend it. All right, my number 2. So this is where the general is, Lexi. This is my second favorite 1920s film of all time. I think Buster Keaton's magnum opus. I love the special effects in this, especially with the train. When they blow up the bridge that it's on, they actually did that. They actually crashed a train. And I love the storyline. He's a train engineer trying to find his way in the Civil War, and everybody's just antagonistic towards him. It's really funny, but yeah, it is crazy. Yes. Crazy stunt work that they did. Apparently, one of the most dangerous stunts he ever did, he didn't realize would have been dangerous. And it was in this movie. So he's on the train and he falls off of it onto like a water spout. And when he did that, he actually broke a bone in his neck, which he didn't know for another 30 or 40 years later. And had it broken just a little bit more, it would have killed him. It would have cut into his jugular. He would have died. But he didn't know that till years later. So that's his most dangerous stunt. He didn't even know it. That just goes to the comedic genius and the stunt work that he was able to do. I don't think any actor today really compares. Maybe Jackie Chan, but yeah, like Buster Keaton is the best of all, in my opinion. All right, my number 1 is Metropolis from 1927. I'm actually wearing a shirt for that right here. I love this movie. This is the basis for science fiction, in my opinion. It was all fleshed out here. You have some great special effects with the backgrounds and the different set pieces. You have some great dialogue, great story. I absolutely love the music in this movie. And I love Fritz Lang's directing. You could tell that George Lucas based C-3PO for Star Wars off of this character, the False Maria. It's not only is it my favorite 1920s movie, it's one of my favorite movies ever. So I recommend checking it out. Yes, exactly. This is probably one of the greatest movies ever made. And what I love about it is I have this version right here from Kino Lorber. This is the complete version. Because for many, many years, the only version of this movie that was available was a lot shorter than that. It was like an hour and a half. And so many key scenes were missing, so the movie never made sense. But now we have a complete version. Although it has some crappy elements to it, it's as good as we're ever going to get for a movie that's 95 years old. And yes, I agree. Super beautiful. One of the greatest movies ever made. Like I said, I love the score. And I love the story itself, how it's the classic story of the human ambition, the Pharaoh versus the slaves, if you will, like in the book of Exodus, or, the master versus his slaves, right? Great story, human condition. I love the line, the mediator between the head and the hands is the heart. That's probably my favorite line in the film. And yeah, it's a great movie. I don't know what else to say other than that. All right. So that's my top 10 list, everyone. And now that I've mentioned all my favorite movies from the 1920s, you can keep adding in the chat your favorite ones. And I'll stay on for a little bit longer to have any discussion you may want to have. So, yeah, fire away. Excuse me. Ooh, Nosferatu. Yes, my wife mentioned Nosferatu. Ooh, Wings. Yes. I'll start off talking about Nosferatu a little bit. So I've tried watching that movie probably 3 or 4 times now. And each time I watch it, I end up falling asleep. I'll be honest. It's not my favorite silent movie and 1920s movie, in that matter. Ironically, though, it's the first adaptation of Dracula. But, yeah, no, I don't like that one very much. All right, Wings. So I just reviewed that one recently. It just barely missed this list. I had to make the decision between this and Man in the Movie Camera. And I decided to go with Man with Movie Camera just because I love the crazy techniques they were able to do. But this movie it won Best Picture, first movie to ever do so. And it's a really impressive one. I absolutely loved it. And I love the World War One background and storyline. You don't see too many movies about that, so I really liked that. And I honestly think it deserved Best Picture. I kind of disagree with scholars that say Sunrise is better. I think they're both really good, and I think Wings is a better story, but then Sunrise has more memorable moments. So, but like I said, it barely missed the list. And if you follow me on Letterboxd, you could see my full list there of my favorite 1920s movies, and you'll see the scores I gave each of these movies. All right. So, you may be wondering, how did I decide how to watch all these movies? You know, because the 1920s is definitely not a decade everyone talks about or even really knows about. So I got 3 books here, and I'll show each of them that have really helped me decide not only for this decade, for many decades, what movies to really watch. And the first one is this one. It's 1001 Movies to See Before You Die by Stephen Schneider. And what I like about this book is it's got movies for pretty much every decade and every year, starting from 1902. If I could get it open there. Well, I guess I got Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, but it starts for the earliest you can get, which is like 1902, all the way until 2018. That's the version I have. And they update it every year, add new movies, take out old ones. And it's a great book to decide what movies to watch. It's a great list. I mean, they have a whole page with all of them that you could just check off. If I can find it here. Yeah. So you can check them off as you watch them. I think I've only seen like 150 of them. There are so many movies in here. It's definitely not a beginner book because a lot of them are kind of foreign films or very experimental, kind of weird movies. So this one, if you're a diehard movie fan, I would recommend. But if you're just kind of a casual movie watcher, I recommend this book, the movie book. Glare out of there. From DK Publishing. Excuse me. This one has a similar layout, but it only has like 200 movies in it. And let's see if I can find the first movie it has in here. So, for example, it has like Intolerance from 1916, which is a great movie too, by the way. But it like lays out the director. It lays out some of the key scenes in the movie, like this one right here. And yeah, I think this is a better beginner's book. It's got a lot of popular movies like Pulp Fiction, Wizard of Oz, It's a Wonderful Life. This is a good beginner's book. Now, one more film. This is one I used as a textbook in my film history class. This is American Film by John Lewis. This one I liked a lot because it goes through pretty much every era of cinema, from early cinema all the way until the 21st century. So like this one I've used for like deciding what like 1902 movies to watch, right? You got Great Train Robbery right here. Or you got like Buster Keaton right here with Fatty Arbuckle, you know, all these crazy things. Or you even have, let's see, or you even have like The Godfather right here. So this is a great one that shows kind of chronologically movies and the impact they've had on life in general. All right. Well, those are the books that I use, and yeah, those are a great way to start deciding what movies to watch, especially from the 20s. We got a lot in the 1001. I want to say like 50. And just start from there. Pick one or two, and then try to watch all from each director or each actor in the movie. And then from there, you'll just grow your watching of it. Now, granted, most 1920s movies are silent films, so keep that in mind. Over time, you'll kind of get used to reading title cards. That's something that I've gotten used to. And another thing, too, you have movies like The Jazz Singer where it has some audio in it, but for the most part, it's a silent movie. And that movie also barely missed the list. That's a good one, too. But yeah, I could talk all day about the 1920s. I think it's a great era of cinema. And I personally think the year 1927 has better movies than 1939, which many scholars say is the best year. It's a very hot topic, I know. But yeah. Anyways, those are the movies I wanted to discuss today. Oh yeah, The Artist. So yes, The Artist from 2011. I think that was the Best Picture winner. That's a great movie to start out with to get interested in silent movies. Excuse me. I really like that one too. Excuse me. I highly recommend checking that one out as well because it kind of helps ease you into the silent era. All right. So I'll take a couple more questions here and then we'll end the chat. All right. Yeah, you could ask me anything like favorite, I don't know, favorite thing about the 20s or anything about movies in general, really. Would be a great question. Mhm. Ooh, what's my least favorite 1920 movie? Ooh, that's a tough decision. I'll have to look at my letterbox for that, but just off the top of my head, I could think of as Nosferatu. I don't know. There was something about it. It didn't work very well for me. I personally like Dracula from 1931. I like that movie a lot more for the Dracula storyline. Although Nosferatu is more accurate to the book, I just think that Boris Karloff is super. Yeah, rip him a new one, right? Seriously though, man, I love F.W. Murnau, right? I talked about him on this list. He made Sunrise, but I don't know. There's something about Nosferatu that just didn't work. Like the character was creepy, which worked, but the characters around him were not very interesting. I'd say they were even less than one-dimensional characters. There was no one to really root for or really like in the movie. So yeah, I'd say Nosferatu. And oh, what's another one? Oh, I thought of another one. The Sheik with Rudolph Valentino. I just reviewed that recently. That was a terrible movie, especially that version of it. They had this music that they added in the 70s that sounds like 70s music. Does not work at all with the movie. I absolutely hated that movie. The story was super dumb, super slow. It was just not good. All right. Oh, favorite 1920s actor or actress? Hmm. Actor, I'll have to go with Buster Keaton. I loved his ability to make people laugh, but also have such a stone cold face while doing it, and to do those crazy daredevil things he did. I love that. Really great actor. As far as actress, um, there's a couple that come to mind. Hmm. I'd have to say Clara Bow. She's in Wings. She's pretty good in that. I think she's okay. But yeah, he can really bust a move. Yes, yes, Buster Keaton can bust a move. I like that. Uh, yeah, that's pretty much it. I could think actor and actress. Uh, you know what? Even though I didn't mention him on this list, Charlie Chaplin was a good actor too. Um, a couple of his movies were going to be on the list, but again, just barely missed it. Like The Kid from 1921. Uh, I like him in that, and I liked The Kid as well. I think he's Jackie Coogan was his name. He was really good. But yeah, I don't know. I like his later films a lot more, like in the 1930s, Chaplin's movies. And those will definitely be on the 1930s list. That will come out soon. All right, just a couple more questions here, then I'll log off. Uh, City Lights was from 1931, and that one will actually be on my 1930s list. So be on the lookout for that. Yeah, All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on to the chat today, and especially to my wife Lexi for being an engaging audience member. Ooh. um, Speaking of the 1930s, that video will be released March 5th. It'll be another live stream, and I'll be talking about my top 10 1930s movies. So come prepared with that. You'll probably see Wizard of Oz on that list, or Dracula, whatever it is, right? Even if you only have like 5 or 6 movies on your list, come and bring them anyway. I love to hear your guys' thoughts as well. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I want to thank you all so much for coming in to my first live stream today. I think we did okay. The last time I tried with OBS, like I said, it totally killed the RAM on my computer. So I think I'll stick to live or StreamYard. I think it's a good one. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Like I said, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Really Old Movies. You'll get weekly updates on the week's particular film that I'm reviewing, as well as on Facebook and Twitter. And also make sure to subscribe to this channel where I'll do my monthly live streams, whether it be on the decades or an anniversary of a particular film. All right. Well, thank you all so much. This has been Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Scullin. Take care.